I hope my side look is good, camera.
That's a good side.
Perfect.
I know. I ended up wearing a short skirt, so I didn't want all the men to not listen to me. I already can see a few looking. Please don't look through, just look side. But Philip assured me that if I fall, he'll lift me. So please make sure you have a lasso. It's over there.
We're ready.
Great. So traditional media, when I told Kara about traditional media, she said legacy media. So I'll let her tell us about that. So I read a very interesting article by George Agler. He's a guru in advertising and a founder of a great business, many businesses in marketing. He said traditional media is changing. No, that's an understatement. The real facts are that traditional media is going through a tectonic shift of historical proportions. Although the pattern has been established for many years, advertising money has been and still is moving away from TV, radio, direct mail, print, and all that. It's declining, and people are looking into, what is being rewarded as, the clicks and the digital media. But in our part of the world, we are seeing that happening, but still, and as Philip will allude to later, we still have a huge population that is still being served by this media. And that is what we'd like to discuss today with your contribution, of course, audience. And as I said, I have a great panel here. I'd love to introduce them. I'd love actually them to introduce themselves. And I said, my name is Edna Thiongo-Mbugwa. I run a marketing research agency called Breakthrough Consulting. We do market research. We bring insights to businesses so that they can evolve and align with the consumer needs. So over to you, Jerry.
Good morning, everybody. Is it still morning?
Yes.
2 minutes, yes. So for me, by the time it gets to Carol, it'll be afternoon. Good morning, everybody. No, I can't be louder than everyone. Good morning.
You have a mic.
How are you guys doing? Awesome. So my name is Njeri Ngige. I am the Digital Brands Manager at Nation Media Group, and I'm excited to be here and this amazing, amazing panel. So thank you for this opportunity.
Most welcome. Thank you. Philip.
Good morning, guys. Oh, wow. Do I get Njeri to do it again?
Let's hear the girls. Philip is talking.
Okay, the girls apparently. Good morning. Yeah, you got much better. The dudes,
oh my goodness, guys.
The rest of the time. The dudes can be quiet. My name is Philipp Moneke. I'm the digital editor at Media Services, and I'm also very happy to be here. In this, I was here yesterday. I just wanted to be very sure that I'm very comfortable and understand exactly what's happening, and it's right up my alley, and also a brilliant panel I have I'm part of here. So yeah, I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, did I say my name? Yes. Oh yeah, Philipp Moneke, thank you.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Grace, nice to be here. My name is Carol Kimutai. I am the group digital editor at the Standard Group. We are a publicly listed company, 116 years old. So I'm sure you're going to give me a lot of feedback about our products and what we do. Exactly. Over to you, Edna.
Thank you. Thank you, Carol. Yeah, she said 116 years. That's quite, the young guys here were not born. Their parents hadn't met. Their grandparents had not met. So, Carol, based on what I said from what George Agler says about what is how the traditional media is shifting and the changes in the digital disruption, please just share with us your thoughts on how the audience media consumption patterns are changing and how traditional media houses are repositioning to meet these fast-changing audience needs.
Thanks, Edna. That's a question that we're always asked about. And when Edna called me, and she wanted some information about what we need to talk about, I'm going to embarrass you a bit.
Oh, please do.
She told me that technology is replacing media, and that newspapers will die, and we're all on social media, and we are all online. But I corrected her and told her that that's not actually what's happening. Media is actually converging online.
Yes.
And the thing we should actually be thinking about, worried about, and it's not only media, it's banking, it's hospitality, it's everything. Technology has actually changed the way we live our lives. So I'll ask a question, and anyone who gets it right, I have a gift for you. Which is the most popular brand of a watch?
Just check what your neighbor is wearing.
I'm wearing a brand, but I'm sure it's not popular. Which is the #1 watch brand?
Check your neighbor.
Casio? Fossil? Which one? Seiko? Someone said Apple Watch. You need to shout. Apple. I think you're right. The #1 watch brand is Apple.
Wow. Wow.
So I want us to start from that perspective. Apple Watch, #1 brand in the world. Back to you, Edna.
Wow, wow. So how is that changing, especially thinking about the local market? How, okay, we are converging online, but how are the legacy media houses doing that practically?
Yeah, I thought I used that example for us to appreciate the fact that technology is really the game changer here. And we realize that as media. I'm sure my colleagues will also discuss what they are doing about it. For us, we're asking ourselves, who is the audience, and what are they consuming, and how are they consuming, and why are they consuming what they are consuming? So that's a big discussion points in our newsrooms. And that's why you've seen that we have changed the way you consume content. So I'll give an example. At Standard Group, we have the radio station called Spice and Vibes. It's actually an audio-visual radio station, because we realized apart from you consuming audio with the ear, you also want to consume it with your eyes.
Yes.
So that's just one example, and I think the rest can also use examples of how media houses have changed with the times.
Wow, that's great, yes. And we actually, I didn't even know what Spice was. I didn't know it was audiovisual, but I love it. I love listening to Eric Rattif and, is it City? Yeah. Philipp, Royal Media Services, RMS, has been one of the leading media in the region, especially on radio, very powerful, and TV, and also with your vernacular radio stations. How are you transforming the traditional business of radio in this digital age?
Thank you. I'll just start by mentioning something she said. The whole traditional media, most of the time it moved to almost hybrid, because literally every media house right now like when she said it's converging online, so it's moving from dumb media. By dumb media, it just means, it's practically the question she asked about the watch. When you watch TV, when you read a newspaper, or when you see a billboard, it does not exactly tell you who is engaging with it, what numbers, and things like that. So right now, as much as we have all these the fossils and all the Seikos, the reason why people are now going to these digital smartwatches is because it can tell you, it can give you data that can help you. It can tell you you've walked 10,000 steps today, you've run 10 kilometers, you slept 4 hours or 10 hours, and out of the 10 hours, 6 were there's REM and the deep sleep. Yeah, so everybody now wants to understand that, and that's now what media has become. So when you look at this so-called traditional media that people say it would be wiped out by the so-called new media and everything else, you still find when you look at the numbers online, from the CNNs to the Al Jazeera to Citizen to Standard and Nation, they're still leading when it comes to on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, and all these others. So it's leveraging the power you have offline and just bringing it online, and understanding now how to tell the stories that you used to tell offline and now tell them better. So it's still the same thing about when I think TV, or is it radio, which came first? There's that song, what killed the radio star or the TV star? I think it was radio or TV. TV said TV killed the radio star. So when TV came up in the 50s, everybody thought this is the end of radio. Yeah. But that was not the thing. So people just learned how now to move from radio and now tell stories in an audiovisual kind of ways. And that's practically the same thing we are doing. So for Royal Media, it usually has a brilliant way of engaging and connecting with its audience. And it's the same thing it does online. So there are general strategies that we have to employ to understand how to engage with these same audiences. Yeah. Something as easy as on radio just asking, unatusikizia kutoka wapi, and you see the number of people just telling you where they are. That's actually data that now even for you, you can tell, oh, this is what's happening. So even for Netflix, they usually keep saying, as much as everybody says it's digital, and which it is, they still have a problem because almost majority of the people who watch Netflix watch it on TV. They don't watch it on their phones. So they're trying to get people to also move away from the traditional way of consuming visual to get into this point of mobile. So it's still a long way, even as much as you're going digital, you cannot now come and say, this one has been wiped out, this is happening. So like she rightfully said, we are converging online. And I think so far we are doing a brilliant job. It's just a matter of understanding where your audience is, being there, because also there's a lot of choice. So if I'm somewhere and you're not there, that's it. So for radio has become audiovisual. So everybody, it's, Spice is there and everything else, but you realize something like Ramogi has been audiovisual for the last 5 years.
Did you know that?
They practically went and put up cameras on the set 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So over the last 5 years, if you just want, you can either listen to Ramogi or you can watch Ramogi FM. So, so those are now some of the things that the company has been trying to move to these new spaces. Even when they don't understand it, they'll try to be very intentional and very forceful to just, let's try this and see where this is happening and see where it leads us. So that one really helps.
Wow.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Philip, for that. Njeri, Nation Media Group, newspaper. How many people bought newspaper today? No hand up.
At least just lying.
Even this guy in a suit. I thought this guy in a suit would have bought.
That is so
I'm talking about
stereotypical.
you. In a suit and a tie. You don't have a newspaper in your car. You need to tell Jerry that. So tell us about print business, because we knew, like this guy in a suit and a tie today would have received a paper, 2 of them, The Standard and The Nation, on his doorstep, and that is how we knew you're wealthy. If people delivered gazeti kwa nyumba, eh? And now today, what's happening? Tell us. How is that changing? How has that changed your game?
There's a very famous sentence that started in, I think, the late 1600s, when King George died. And it was, the king is dead. And everybody's quip was, long live the king. King of content and delivering content, news content, to us since time immemorial. From the times to just even today, when the Princess Lilibet was born. Sorry, she's not princess anymore.
Lilibet.
Yes. She was born in America, but there was a printed notice outside Buckingham Palace. So there is space. The sky is so blue, and there's space for everybody who's producing content. And print, the king that it is, that he is, because it is a very patriarchal.
It's a he.
It's a he. So right now, everybody in this room knows somebody who received a physical paper. It might not be someone your age.
Yeah, I know my dad did.
Exactly. Because it became a habit. Yeah. So there is space for the professionals who get it on their desks every morning. Whether they read it or not is neither here nor there. But there are people, just because of their circulation reach, that even the law requires you to put 2 adverts, just in case you're changing something, in 2 major leading newspapers, just so that...
We'll talk about that law part later.
But just because of reach, there are places, we have to be alive to this reality, that there are places that digital does not reach, even within our country. So for us, for advertising, for marketers, for everyone in this room, yes, social media is alive, but you'll need to get to somebody when you're running a competition. We all know this. BCLB requires you to make sure everybody within this country has access to that particular competition. And that will definitely send you to 2 major Thank you. You actually answered it. 2 major newspapers with the biggest reach within this country. So the king might be dead, but he will still live long.
The king is dead?
Long live the king.
It's long live the king. Cara is shaking her head. What do you think?
Good question. This morning I was speaking to Moses Kemibaro, who is maybe the dinosaur in the room. And we were discussing about...
Dinosaur means big, elephantish?
Yes, the print.
Yeah.
And I'm of the view that we will still be relevant for the next 3 to 4 to 5 years. Why am I saying that? If you look at data, Kenya is still a radio country. And we still wake up in the morning, you pick your phone, the first thing, of course, you do is you check your WhatsApp to check whether the world ended.
Yes.
Whether you're still alive or guys got raptured. Don't we all do that?
We do.
We even check before we pray, for those of us who pray in the morning or whatever you do in the morning.
That's true.
And yeah. Then what do? As you're preparing for your day, you're listening to radio or you're watching, whatever you're watching, and the people on radio and the people on TV ask you whether you've seen the paper this morning.
Yes. There's a newspaper review.
There's a newspaper review. And if you like talk radio, most of the things they discuss is what was in the Gazette today, right?
Yes.
And if you're on WhatsApp, if you don't receive a link, you receive a PDF of a newspaper. Let me give you an example. When was the Uganda bombing? Was it 2 days ago?
2 days ago,
Tuesdays ago. Tuesday.
I'm sure you all saw a clipping of the Monitor newspaper where the UK government had sounded a warning about a possible terror attack. How many saw that clip? It was a screenshot of a newspaper.
It's the watu wa magazeti ndio
Yes.
waliona.
So you can see that media, we don't consume monomedia, we consume multimedia. That whatever you actually read on WhatsApp, you want to come and confirm it, either kwa gazeti, or you want to see it was on TV, or you want to find out was it on radio. One of the things we discovered at the Standard Group, when we are doing fact-checking, people send us all sorts of things to fact-check. And they tell us they saw it on WhatsApp, they saw it here, they saw it there. When we publish it, that's when they actually believe whether it's true or it's false. So there's actually a role for what we call legacy media. And it's going to be there for a very, very long time. And our parents, those of us who have parents who are upcountry, they still want the paper. They still want the paper. And anything is on paper is quote unquote true and authentic. So we have a generation of people, yes, who are consuming content on devices, but we still have to feel the paper. We are still reading books. That's why we have bookshops.
Yes.
And we are seeing the government printing books for kids. So I think, and maybe history will judge me, at least by the time I'm turning 50, the newspaper will still be there. And I'm actually close to that age. Thanks.
You
Thanks,
don't look
Carol.
a day over 20.
Don't look it. We are thinking you're 25 anyway.
Yeah. I just wanted to add that now newspapers are being used as tools for teaching. So, for example, we have in Taifa Leo, we have content that is specifically for schools, so that when your children have an opportunity to learn Kiswahili from the experts. So yes, print will always be the leading expert, because even our politicians say, watu wa magazeti walisema. So the trustworthiness of it just does not live beyond us as the verifiers or us as the people who produce content, but it also goes to our great-grandchildren who will still be living and reading Taifa Leos and legacy media to just make sure that they get into the next phase of life for not just exams, but just to become the best in their school or the best in their language, for just capturing the language and learn from people who are creating this content for them. Yeah. So legacy media will always be there in that manner.
Wow, thanks. You want to jump
Yeah,
in?
that is true. It will always be there, but also what will happen is as she inches closer to 50, I think she's like 26 now. So that one, what happens is the newspaper there's still the newspaper as you know it, but also it's also online. So yes. You still follow, there's a reason you still follow, say, Nation, Online, Standard, and of course, Real Media, and all our platforms. But because, like I said, it's leveraging the power you have offline. Yes. So as much as you have all these other people out there disseminating news, because the role of breaking news was removed from media. That one, we will not fight about it. Yeah. But everybody now knows day two journalism. That's where it comes in. So you know there's a bombing in Kampala because you've seen it on Twitter. But you now expect the media, the legacy media and everything else to now tell you more. To now be the ones on the ground and telling you the ABCD is happening. Yeah. So all these powers, the powers that be, will always talk to them. Yes, once in a while you'll go and find in the White House, you have the politicals of this world and all these other websites, but they still have to decide who they talk to. So it's a very small number of publications or online, be they online or physical, that they talk to. So everybody still will gravitate towards that. When the pandemic hit, as much as TV viewership had gone down, it actually went up last year moving forward, because now everybody wanted to know when Mutahi is talking, when Uhuru is talking, you can only find this in one place. So these opportunities will always be there and they're not going anywhere, because when you look at, even for, if I use like our online portal, like even if you go to our YouTube page at 7 o'clock for Nipashe, you find over 35,000 people actually streaming it live. When you go to the website, it's a different thing. When you go on Twitter and Facebook, it's the same. So when you look at this, is how people, of course, consume news has greatly changed and has been changed by digital, but it's still the same players that are still, people still go to the same players to find that. So CNN, as much as it's still on TV, but they're trying to understand how to still give you the same content they give you on TV, but online in a different way. But they are still a very traditional kind of a player. When you watch CNN, you're watching it on TV. Yes. And they still have that in mind. But it's now how they give you the information that is now changing. How TikTok will give you information. If I decide to dance as I give you the news, that's a totally different thing. But I've realized the same audience that says, you guys don't do this, and we need more of this, when you give them more of whatever they're asking, the views, because right now we have data, it's 200 views, but then when you go for the Tangatangas and everybody else, everybody is watching them. So you're like, so nini munataka? It's the same thing like with music where everybody screams, ini ratchet, ndio mnashinda mukituchezea, players conscious music. But ukienda kwa charts, even online on Spotify and everywhere else, that's where now highest. You're going there on your own and deciding this is what I'm watching and what's trending on YouTube, it's the ratchet songs. So, so it's practically they say one thing and they say another, but the consumer is king. So right now with data, you can tell. So once in a while, because like when the pandemic hit, there was no politics. So people actually thought media was going to struggle. It did not, because there was no. This one, sijui hu muganga, hu sijui hu yunani, muizi, whatever, all these things they say, but content was there. And even from that point, you can realize, because of data, you can see even how the media is giving you information is also kind of changing, because with data now they can see, this one works well here, this one works well here, but it's practically the same thing they've been doing. So it's just maybe something has moved from the Standard on page 45, it's now on page 3. Because they've seen how you guys are consuming the news and the data you're giving them.
Okay, wow. Well, thank you so much for that. In terms of sustainability, now looking into the future, I'm sure I don't know, apart from the government advertising, like lazima watu waeke kwa gazeti mbili, especially from those lawful ones. How is it going to be sustainable towards the future? Do you think people will still continue advertising on your big newspaper?
yes, just because of circulation numbers and digital penetration. For that reason, print will still continue being there. Just as Carol said, books will still be published.
Yes.
Magazines, when you get into KQ in-flight magazines, are still going to be there. And advertising will dip at some point, but then it'll still go back up just because of the circulation numbers. In the village, in the interior places, in as much as our parents will retire, there's still that one person. There are pullouts that are farmers directed, that is health, that is all these things that are unique, bespoke content that is true and trustworthy and you can only find in legacy media. So yes, advertising will still continue in legacy media for, yes, 2 to 3 years, it'll still be there, but then also looking into the future, when Carol finally gets to 50 in 26 years, she will sit back and be like, oh, my eyes, this screen is too small. Nataka gazeti. So it'll still have a place.
Did you
will it
enlarge your
change?
font?
Did you No. We got glasses.
Okay.
So we will have, it'll change in format, but still, print will still be there.
What do you think, Carol? What's the future like?
I think you asked a question about sustainability. So I'll pick it from there. When COVID happened, we all know that one of the hardest hit industries was media. And for those of you who are either in brand or marketing or media, you know that our usual business model was advertising.
Yes.
So we send a salesperson, they book an advert, either on physical paper, on TV, or on radio. So what happened is brands actually canceled their orders, and government, I think, was it 2 years ago, decided they're going to put all the advertising onto their publication called MyGov.
Is it? Yeah, MyGov. Yeah.
MyGov. Then we had the government banning betting money. So 2 years before, I think it was 3 years before, we lost government advertising, then betting. Then COVID happened. So for the clever media houses, we started asking ourselves, how do we become sustainable without a crutch? A crutch is something you need to walk with. And that's why you're seeing, like ourselves, I think Nation and Raw Media, we started discussing reader revenue. And that's the background, that we are saying we cannot rely on advertising. There's Google, for those of you who run blogs. There's Facebook. It's cheaper, actually, to advertise there for brands and more brands than to come to a mainstream, a legacy media, for you to advertise. So we are cognizant of that fact. So what have we done as media? I'm speaking about media. We started experimenting with paywalls. We are all paying for content. Those who are on Spotify, if you're on iOS, you're paying. If you're on Android, you can still enjoy for free. If you're on Netflix, the same. And we're going to discuss that strategy about smartphones and those devices. People are actually paying for content. So that's one source of content. Then we have the print publication has become a digital subscription. So instead of you spending 60 shillings, you can spend 30 shillings, you can spend 40, you can spend 20 and get your digital subscription. So we are looking at how do we diversify so that we can move forward as an industry. If you're on the Safaricom app, you can actually buy your paper this morning on M-Pesa. I think it's 10 bob. Is it 10 or 20 shillings? It's 20 shillings. What does that mean? And when you look at sustainability, we are seeing media houses also looking at things like events. That's a source of revenue. We are looking at games. You can now go onto local website and actually play games. That's another way of looking at content. So if you're in content and in brand, this is a hint for you. How do you also tap into the audiences that media has? And now this is where we have to also think critically. Google before, 2-3 years ago, we are depending on them for third-party data. I had to check my Google Analytics dashboard, and then I know how many of you are coming, demographic, and so on and so forth. But right now, for you to come to even the BBC, even Reuters, Standard Group, Nation, you have to register. I have first-party data. If you're running an advertising campaign, I can tell you of my data, which is the most engaged audience. Because I can tell you my casual visitors, the casuals who come, casual visitors. I can tell you my return visitors. We call them loyal readers. These are new terms that we started discovering because of COVID. Yeah. I'm going to finish. And then I can tell you brand lovers. My brand lovers on my platform spend 8 minutes. 8 whole minutes. So as media, I think COVID for us was a silver lining. I think it was a wake-up call. It made us realize that if we don't change, we'll be had for lunch. Thanks.
Wow, thank you so much, Carol. Philip?
Maybe just...
yes, on sustainability.
The thing was innovation as well, like they've mentioned. I usually like to point out one publication, one media house. It's called The Athletic. It's an exclusively sports digital platform. It's actually venture. It's a VC-funded company. So so media now it's also changing in the way it is. So becoming very niche. So you decide, if I go to sports, I know everybody else wants to know what the scoreline knows and everything else, but now these ones are trying to give you content that you really you cannot find from a breaking news perspective. So it's well and good when Arsenal and Man United, they play and leave, but there's somebody now on the back end trying to give you the behind the scenes kind of a look. And that's what The Athletic does. It now goes more into who is moving where, who is doing what. And that one for them, it's subscription based, it's exclusive, but you see now for that one, it's now practically up there with your other tech companies. Yeah. Even in Kenya now, you find if I'm only going to do, my content is only to be on farming, now I do just farming exclusively. So I'm pointing to, my audience is now very niche, and so are my advertisers. So if you're a farmer and I'm the one giving you the information and I'm bringing in tech into how I give you my information, how this information will help you as a farmer, this one will happen. So if everybody is going, right now everybody has gone into pig farming. And that is the one area that's it's the new quail right now. Mm-hmm. Somebody can come and say, this place, when you look at the prices in the market, this may not actually be it. So once now you decide, if I'm going to politics, I'm going to politics, like Politico is politics exclusively. Mm-hmm. They do not care for anything else. So if you like your politics, you go to them exclusively. If you like your business, you always go to Financial Times. If you go to all this. So media now starts segmenting itself on how they give you the information. Mm-hmm. So newspaper may come and give you everything, but also we'll get to a point where we'll find this one only gives you this maybe on Sundays. Sundays is Fridays is entertainment, Sundays can be hard political news and trying to make sense of what's going on. So analysis also become a big thing in it. Yeah. So for Citizen, we have News Gang on Thursdays. Mm-hmm. Very big, because at the end of the day, people want to talk politics at the bar. But they need somebody to listen, somebody say something, then at the bar when you're the loudest, nobody knows you picked it from Joage or Linus Kaikai. So that one now becomes, on its own, you find it's very popular because it has a very niche audience that only come to seek that kind of information. So that's, you're finding that's what's happening. I think you guys have Farmers TV, you have all these, even we have all these platforms for, say, mothers only, for young children and everything else. So we are seeing the segmentation because of the kind of data, and that's where I go, and that's where the money is. Yeah, so we've stopped necessarily trying to give you, 30 seconds ago I was telling you news, right now I'm selling you shares at somewhere, the next Maguta somewhere else. So even the Magutas have their own niche audience, and
Yeah.
it's working, and that's why you find it has really worked for the vernacular stations. So there is that now kind of segmentation, and it's really important for, that's generally how you'll know the media. So the media will change. The newspapers will still be there, but in one form or another. 5 years from now, how you know maybe the Standard or the Nation will be very different from the way it is. The people daily, everybody at one point was not doing well sales-wise, so they decided to go free. When you look at the kind of ads they have, even as hard copy, they are now targeting ads. So, and this is, maybe I'm advertising for them, but if you want to, if you're what, Game Supermarket or Carrefour, and you want to advertise, say, on your branch on maybe TRM, you can go to them and tell them, okay, on TRM, on this road, put in an extra 5,000 copies, give people for free there, because they are the people maybe who will be shopping there. Then on Saturdays, and you can tell them this is on Saturday. So you are now doing targeted ads, but physically, not online anymore. So that's what I'm saying. How you know the newspapers is still the same, but will be in a totally different way. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, Philip. I will now welcome the audience to ask us questions. Are there mics going around? So we have the Standard Group here, 116 years old. We have Citizen. We have Nation newspaper. If your father bought, maybe you can appreciate them.
Yes. For their birthday, give them an annual subscription. We will deliver to their doorstep.
Yeah. And actually, one of my questions to you, audience, do you read newspapers? Do you watch TV anymore? Anybody would... Yes, how do you consume your media? It would really be interesting to hear, especially that young guy smiling at me just there in front of the Safaricom banner. I'm sure he's wondering, when was the... Do you read newspaper?
Have you ever seen?
You have okay, just tell us, please. I just want to know where the future is, because, you know, after my dad, seriously, my dad has a subscription for the Standard newspaper since when I was a little girl up to now. He believes that it is well written. Sorry, Jerry.
No.
And he always says that, and you know, he loves that paper, and it has been his paper since when we were children. Like there's a whole room now that we've left home that is piled up with Standard newspapers from the 80s to up to now. I mean, and it is, you know, like it is, and every day, and he has to go all the way to the crossword puzzle with his dictionary, you know, no Google to fill it up and all that. So after my dad, in my family, there's no one else who is reading the newspaper. So let me hear from that guy.
Habit consumption.
Did you get the mic?
Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anthony. No, I don't watch TV in terms of Nation, Standard, and NTV. I love you guys, though. I'm so sorry. But in terms of when you're talking about legacy media and the fact that it is the place where we go to fact check, when I see something on Twitter, I'll see the bombing. I won't believe it until I go to Nation and see that they've posted, oh, there's a bombing. Okay, now it's serious. Wow, things are happening. Same thing, if something happens in Kenya, I go to Citizen and I see, oh, okay, so wamesema, it's true, it's happening. So I think the fact that media is dead, it doesn't mean that it's really dead. It's just going to keep going for a very long time, as long as we keep trusting it.
Wow, thank you so much. And,
Long
Jerry.
live the king.
Thank you. Moses?
for me, I think the question I have, and I think that I'm seeing in global media, is this convergence between content and commerce. And I think I spoke about this on Tuesday as well when I was running the panel, that we're seeing a situation where media platforms globally are starting to buy retail businesses. And retail businesses, or businesses that are in the commercial space, are starting to buy media companies. So there's this element of content and commerce coming together, so that why should I pay for media when I can be the media? And I'm curious to see or hear your opinions about that, and how that maybe plays even into the print side of the business, but also into the digital platforms. Because I think if you can bring the two together, you get sort of economies and efficiencies, but more importantly, the user doesn't have to click to 5 places, they can have everything in one place. So I'd love to hear your point of view around that sort of innovation and trend that's happening globally. Thank you.
Thank you. Who will take?
Maybe it's actually the exact same thing when I mentioned about The Athletic, where you find it's somebody who decided, I'm going to this is the niche I'm doing. So when Jeff Bezos bought Washington Post, everybody wondered what he was doing, and he actually invested more money in it, because at the end of the day, content is king. The so-called legacy media at least has a name that everybody trusts and can go to. So I remember for most people did not understand exactly why that would happen. And to this day, people still wonder why he bought the Washington Post. But the content that they give can only be found there. So there's a space for all of us. It's a primal need to know what's going on. It's a primal need to fact check something. You can be on WhatsApp the whole day and everything you receive is as received. And that's usually when I say on fact checking, that should be the first red flag. When you see as received, delete, and all those things, we know the kind of mess they're wrecking, especially to our parents who, I saw it on Facebook, I saw it on WhatsApp. But at the end of the day, sometimes even for them, they'll be like, yeah, I saw it here, but sikuiona pale. So while I'm getting my news, it's called native advertising. Right now, it's different. So there have always been a Chinese wall between advertising and content. But right now, like she mentioned, that one is practically dead, because we were at the WowZ event at the down there, and somebody from EABL said the TVC is dead. So right now, even they want to tell stories. And as much as they can tell stories on their own platforms, they kind of understand when you tell it on this platform, it has more power than when I tell it on mine. So there's the whole aspect of storytelling will still be there. So when now you bring in and trying to be smarter on how you advertise to the people. So when you look at, there's how something like BuzzFeed advertises, which is, it's until you figure out what they're doing. When they say these are the 10 colognes every girl will go wow for, and then you go and find them. Actually, all of them, it's an advertisement. But there's also something like when it comes to healthcare. When something like Nairobi Hospital decides, let's do a story trying to tell people these are the signs of COVID, this is what happens, this is exact. So everybody is asking themselves the how-tos. So as a media house, you go to Nairobi Hospital, Aga Khan Hospital, or any other, and they give you content from their own doctors. They're brilliant at that, and they give you the content, and it actually helps you as a human being, and that works. So that whole merger, whether we like it or not, it's the only way, like she was saying, that's one of the innovate or die. And to me, I believe that's one of the main reasons for it.
Thank you, Philip. Any other comment?
Yeah, the issue of content and commerce is critical. And that's why you're seeing like media houses are converting classifieds. For us at the Standard Group, we have Digger classifieds. Okay. Digger is driven by content. So we bring in the buyers and the sellers, and we curate content around buying and selling. Because buying and selling, those of you who are on Instagram, I think there was a report that showed a lot of commerce is happening on Instagram. There are even shops that have closed physical spaces and are just operating online shops. So you're right about commerce. You're going to see a lot more shops. The media houses, ourselves, will host a lot more shops within our content. So you come there, display your stuff, and sell. And you're going to see lots more partnerships with even Safaricom. That's why you can get your newspaper on your M-Pesa app. So the real issue for us, even in media and media communication, is who are we competing with? We're actually competing with technology. We are competing with the internet. We are competing with people like Safaricom, and that keeps me awake a lot of the times.
True.
Because look at the banks. The banks refuse to play ball with Safaricom. Until now, you can move money from your bank account to your
M-Pesa.
Safaricom wallet. I'm told there's a wallet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and now when you check your Safaricom app, it tells you how much fare you've sent if you're a guy to a chick. So back to you.
Thanks, Carol. Jerry?
Innovation is what now is happening in the news houses, the publishers' front yard. At Nation, we have what we are calling the segmentations, we're calling them verticals, where we are getting content that we have done for years and years, for example, in advertising and in health and all this agriculture, motoring, all this content that we have developed specifically curated for different niche audiences, and we bring in the different agri-vets, the different hospitals, and we are giving you a platform that you trust. Because we are the ones who have said, because we already have the trustworthy feeling that we're giving you when we are giving you content, we are also vetting, and through data, as Carol said, we're putting the two together. And you come to the platform and you find, I have these symptoms. I need to go to Google. No, what if I go to Nation and I get a doctor and I can call the doctor directly? So these are the different innovative ideas that we're coming together for content and commerce so that we can provide solutions that are right. Not just because we believe that we are just content creators, we are solution providers across. It is our moral right to provide solutions, and therefore the innovation to provide solutions, not just for content, but also for commerce, therefore drives us to, as Carol said, sleepless nights to make sure that we are giving you the right thing for the right moment for your pocket. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. Thank you,
Sorry,
Jerry.
just to piggyback, I'm sure she mentioned about Netflix, and the weirdest thing about Netflix, their biggest competitor is actually sleep. If you can stay, that's their biggest competitor. So the thing with also the advertising, the way it's changing, I'm sure like at Nation they have it, is a collaboration with like Bill and Melinda Gates.
Yes.
Where they come and give you, say, I think it was what, 200 million? I could be wrong. It was some good money. It was enough, she says enough. So when they come and give you this money and then they tell you, we need you to dedicate this amount of space for content on maybe could be health or maybe their own agenda, because everybody who's paying you has an agenda at the end of the day. So when they come and give you that kind of money, so for you now, they're giving you the opportunity to now go deeper on health, the same way somebody else, maybe from banking or beer or from agriculture, they'll come together and say, okay, we have 1 billion shillings for the three of you, but we need a segment on agriculture moving forward. So that's also now where you're now no longer seeing the full page ads, you're not seeing the banners on the websites and everything else, but there's content generation, because at the end of the day, these guys also know, as much as they have all this money and all this power, there is something that comes with having the name Citizen associated with your brand. Yes. And that one you cannot buy it. And also, so those are some of the few things that we're saying.
Wow, thank you so much for that. Moses, was that answered? Yes. Thank you so much. Is there another question? Yes. We'll take 2 more, and then we can wrap up. Oh, good. I can see 3. Yeah, good. Thank you. Do you have a mic? Okay, good. You've passed her? This one? And then there's that one, and another one on this table.
Hi, I'm Jambi Mahinda. I work for, I run the marketing at Asante Financial Services Group. I am, by training, a journalist. Started off my career in the media house, and I obviously have a lot of respect for the work that you do, because I do understand it. I've been in the trenches. Me being who I am now, I do not consume any of your mediums. I do not consume any local TV. I do not read any newspapers. Unless I am running a campaign, then, I'm fact-checking to see if my campaign has run on the page that I had insisted, left side, right side, those things we fight about with the ad guys. What I want to understand is, because growing up, my dad would get the paper, and like the Sunday paper, and I'd get my part with the comics, and then my mom would take this part, and everybody would, communally enjoy the newspaper. But right now, we have my niece and whatever, who nothing about the newspaper appeals to her. And at 9 o'clock, when people are watching news, she will go on her tab or she'll go to sleep. There's that concept of, I don't know whether to call it respect or dignity that came with that medium has diminished over time. And I want to understand, as providers of this medium, what are you doing to evolve into this new space that people are choosing to not consume your content? How will you satisfy me as an advertiser, and how will you satisfy the need for organic, non-curated content, and at the same time still maintain this legacy that you are strongly holding on to? Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for that question. I'll allow them to take freely.
I can take part one of that. And we actually had a very interesting conversation about it. And that's why there was a relaunch of Taifa Leo. And in that, and every Monday, we have what we call Newspaper in Education. And knowing that our children and our great-grandchildren might not voluntarily go and find the newspaper and consume it with the respect that their grandfathers and great-grandfathers and fathers consume it, therefore we decided, why not partner with schools? Let's go into a school and most of you, if you have done a business course at any of the universities, local universities, you have seen a business daily in your library. A business daily now has become, in some universities, and I believe Strathmore, is giving it as a required reading for some classes to just go in depth and find content that it is that you would require to fulfill and succeed in your class. So for your 9-year-old niece, she might encounter it in school, because it has become a teaching tool by the teacher, just so that, and with the changing education system, for example, moving to CBC, the book is not available at that particular time. However, Kiswahili, the curriculum, and it is there curated, and it is in tandem with what is being provided and asked for by the government. So she will see it and interact with it, but in a different form from what it is that you might see on the streets every day. So people are now subscribing just to Taifa Leo so just their children can consciously read Kiswahili. Yeah, so that's one part of the answer that I wanted to give you, so somebody else can take the first part.
I usually encounter I don't watch local news crowd practically every day.
You just say that.
And sometimes, you're also one of them?
Even you.
Okay. But her next point was happy because she still advertises with the local media. So that one shows there's still some power there. But also we understand when one person says, I no longer consume your news, that's one person may be lost. So we try to make sure, how can we bring you back? And that's what we were saying, the segmentation, trying to figure out exactly what people want. But also, what also has happened is with digital, appointment viewership is dead. Where we all used to run home to watch Churchill live on Thursday, that one is dead, or JKL on Wednesday, it's dead. So if you can watch it. If you're in traffic, you can stream it live. But you already know in your head, if I don't catch it, immediately it's over, I can go on YouTube, and I'll find it there. So most of the time, even in the US these days, what usually happens when they're looking, when they're looking at the audiences, they look at the audiences at that point, the live audiences, but also they'll come back 3 days later to see people from Catch Up and all these online audiences and come and say, so maybe if it's the Super Bowl or American Idol or whatever, they'll come and say 10 million people watched it. But when you include everything else, it was 20. So these days, somebody may not necessarily rush home to watch the news, but at one point when they're looking for something, they'll have to literally still go back to it and confirm something. So from data, even when you see when the news starts, and we've always done that, is everybody knows the first 3 or 4, the first segment of the news is the one that has, it's practically the triangle that we were taught in school about the information and how it filters. Is it inverted, right? Yes, so you can see the number of people coming in at that one point would be 100,000, but by the 6th segment of the news, people have already started dropping off. So I come in, I get what I wanted, I leave. And I also say, when it comes to local media, is practically the same thing as bread. When you go on, we all practically probably eat bread every morning, but nobody's Instagramming it. So, but if you went online, you'll think burgers have surpassed bread. But because that's what people are saying, this is what I'm watching. So somebody will not come and say, oh my God, I was watching Citizen and they did this, but they'll go and say, I was watching over 25, Abel Mutua, or I was reading BNN. They will say those, but they'll never say, I was checking this. So when you look at it, it looks like, oh my God, the sky is falling because all these guys are talking about this, but they're not here. But when you look at the analytics, when you look at the pages they follow, you still have that. So they may not intensively engage with that in media, probably, which is also a bad thing because we also want you guys to engage with us as much. But also it's also trying to understand when you say that and you say maybe there's so much politics, we try to make sure the politics space is still there because it has its audience, because you cannot kill it off immediately, but also try to understand what exactly do you want to see in the news? What do you want to consume? So when we see that, we'll be like, okay, let us try and put this here. Because for the longest time, I'll use the weather. In Kenya, we used to, every TV station used to have the weather forecast. And for the longest time, everybody thought, news lazima ikuwe na weather. But when it was removed, nobody noticed. Because you ask 2 or 3 people, and they tell you, after sports or after business, I'm out. So when it was removed, majority of the people, maybe you could be like, oh yeah, there was something like weather. But in the US, you find weather is really, really big. It's actually one of the weather TV stations are still some of the biggest than, like the CNNs and everything else. They're worth billions of dollars. So it's that whole thing of bread and doma never gets to Instagram. But when you look at it, when you ask the people farming and everything else, it probably sells more than the burgers and all the things we eat at Cafe and Java. So we just need the engagement to understand what exactly you need. But also we know at the end of the day, somehow in your primal need to understand something, as much as you're always on Netflix, on HBO and everything else, if something happens locally that affects you directly, that's where you will come. And if that happens, it's one person every hour, that's okay, but also we understand we cannot have all the 40 million Kenyans on the news at the same time, but we know over the week, we know at least half of you guys will be there. So the problem now maybe comes in for advertising, because when you now, for you, look at advertising and say, because I'm already not consuming this news, I'll also not advertise there, that now becomes a problem. So that's now why we need to engage with now people like you now who are moving away from it to just understand what exactly is making you go and how do we at least can give you one segment that at least you can engage even if it's 1%.
Thanks, Philip. Carol, do you have any comment for that?
Yeah, just a quick one to add what Philip has said. At the center of news decision-making these days is data. And yes, we get all that feedback when we do our group surveys and so on and so forth. We actually know you guys are not watching TV, are not reading the paper. But we also know what you guys are doing, which is a win-win. We know what sites you're on, at what time, we know what devices, we even know how much data you are spending on our content, right? So how are we responding is like what he had said. We are creating content that is specific for you in how you like it. So there's a crowd here who would rather listen to podcasts. And you're seeing media houses are going to podcasts and other content creators. There's health content. There's parenting. There's motoring. So yes, we know you're not consuming the screen, the silver screen, but we know you're going to consume it as video. So the challenge for us is how do we ensure we get you in the space you are, in what you like. But let's not forget, at the end of the day, we say, only journalism will save journalism. As I conclude, if you're a savvy investor here, trust me, you're not going to believe your WhatsApp group members. Trust me. The hottest share right now, you're either going to subscribe to a financial product if you can't get hold of your stockbroker. That's why the rich will pay wealth managers to make money for them. There's nothing for free in the world. So yes, we'll enjoy the free things, but at the end of the day, you have to put money where your mouth is.
Thank you, Carol. Let's take the next question. I hope it was well answered. Thank you. Please pay for advertising here today. Subscribe. Yes. Do you have a mic? Go ahead.
Hi.
Okay.
My name is Chep. I run a food business called Chep Chikoni, and I have two-in-one question. So the first one is, as a business, I'm just curious, as a business person, this is a business-to-business question. Because a lot of maybe brands would now prefer to work with influencers and everything, like take their money to the social media scene and work with influencers. How has it affected your pricing in terms of advertising? Has your pricing gone higher because you want the clients that you have to remain? Have they gone higher because you want to make more from maybe the clients that have remained? Or they've gone higher, or they've gone lower because you want to attract a lot of now customers to say, hey, we are cheaper, we are something like that. And then the second question is, in terms of advertising, because now your reach, I'm sure, is affected because of social media and everything, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. What remains as your competitive edge? Like when you're speaking to your clients who want to advertise with you, what do you sell as your competitive edge? What still makes you stand out in the advertising and marketing markets? Something like that, yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Panelists, can I collect the questions and then you go? Yeah. Let's just hear all the questions, then just arrange yourselves how you will respond. Thank you. Thank you so much for that question. Next.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lynn. I think the contribution in terms of what people consume, personally, I'm a multi-screen kind of consumer.
Yeah.
So the news is playing, I'm on the phone,
yeah,
and my laptop is on.
Yes.
That's how I consume media.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I cannot say that I don't consume, because then I feel like on TV is where it happens,
mm-hmm,
and then the conversations happen on social.
mm-hmm.
You remember, I can say, for example, the Allah actually throwing his phone on the screen. Like, it happened on TV, but later is when the conversations were picked up. And also as a parent, for me, I'm very curious to see, as a parent and
yeah,
also as someone who works in the digital space and advertising,
mm-hmm,
I'm curious to see how are ads on TV running nowadays. Are they in the long format as they were before? What are they saying? And then is that content for me, because I'm curious, mm-hmm, the same on digital? Because these two audiences are different,
Yeah.
and they consume it very, very differently.
Yeah.
So it's not more of a question, but to say that there is that
Yes.
segment, us, who are multi-screen consumers,
Yes.
and also spark curiosity to listen to other stuff.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you. Wonderful question. Thank you so much for that. Let's take the last one.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm Joy Wahome from
Yes.
Belva Digital. Mine is more on tracking, seeing how sometimes traditional media can be quite expensive to produce. I mean, producing TVCs are very, very expensive. As a client, how do you guys track how your campaigns are performing, and how do you attach your performance to a client's ROI?
Excellent. Thank you so much. So we have the tracking, we have the multi-screen consumers, and we also have you lowered your prices for advertising because you want to attract new customers and allow you to just go whichever you feel comfortable to take?
Okay, so I'll start and then they can.
Yes,
whatever.
thank you, Carol.
There's somebody who asked about the lady in red. Sorry, I didn't get your name. Chep. Okay. You spoke about influencers and the unique selling proposition that we give to advertisers. Yes, influencers are part of the people we sit with when it comes to eating advertising cake, right? And we are not running away from that. We'll go to a client or an agency and they'll say they would rather work with Akothe. We used to feel really upset about it, but now we don't. And this is why we don't. Because remember, when I started my conversation, I spoke about COVID. Personally, and also for us as a group, it was a wake-up call. We were running after money, and eyeballs. But now we actually really do care about our audience. Really. Like, we really love the audience. And we are very intentional about producing content that audiences are going to be addicted with. So yes, we'll go to a pitch, but this time I'm going to a pitch and telling brand X, I have 1 million registered users on Standard Digital. Of the 1 million people, X are brand lovers. They come back to us more than 10 times a day, and this is what they do. And from morning to evening, this is what they are consuming at this point. I have newsletters that I send to my audiences who have registered. I do surveys every 2 weeks. Today, I know guys are interested in politics. Tomorrow, soccer. I can tell you the waves. That's what I give as my USP. And I justify, and I actually can give you a rate for conversion. I can do A/B testing for you. I can do targeted advertising on devices. I can even do offers on particular regions in this country. That's what data has done for us. So yes, influencers are there, but we say, us guys have depth, right? You might want your 1 million, that's fine. We actually tell you just go to XY, with all due respect to the great influencers here. It's okay. But you know, there's now conversation around what is the quality of the audience. And that's what we bring on board. As I conclude, there's somebody who asked about the lady who consumes her content across multi-screened. Now that was something we thought that you guys do. And then we also found out that we can't box the audience. And that's why I said COVID was a wake-up call for us, because we started taking time to understand audiences. And we realized, when you ask people, what do you prefer to read? You guys prefer to read politics, business, motoring, an array. And today, you know, this season is a season of politics. We are finding a lot of you guys scoring politics higher compared to 8 months ago. 8 months ago, is it a year ago, you were scoring health as your number one preferred content because of COVID. So, I mean, sometimes it goes up and down, and I know as election fever goes up, all of us will be very, very interested in politics. So yes, the devices are there, but it's also because of your behavior. When you wake up, I know, if I do a survey here, 90% of you guys don't switch on your TV. You pick your mobile phone.
That's true.
And then when you're commuting, you're using your ears. When you get to the office, that's when you're now on WhatsApp groups and you're on whatever. And a lot of us have a screen in the office that is silent. You're working, but the screen is silent. And if you go to a restaurant around 1 o'clock, what happens? You're told to keep quiet. They put on the volume. Or 7 o'clock or 9 o'clock. Right? So consumer tastes is what we actually need to, if you're a brand, you actually need to interrogate. What is your audience consuming and liking? Then you can plug in there. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. Any additional comment?
I'd like to talk about the competitive edge and as well as tracking performance and ROI. So at Nation, we have what we call the DSP, which is a demand-side platform. So we buy ads on metrics. So you come and tell us we want to buy ads on people who are consuming health content. So how much demand is there for that kind of content? And when you come, you tell us these are the metrics that you want. You want 100,000 eyeballs. So we get you that. It's like a Google crawl situation. So we can take this offline and just explain to you how it works, because actually our DSP buyer is here with us today. So we buy and we give you the return on investment that you have invested in us because we have the audiences. Every media house represented here has the audiences that not only consumes our content, but the audience that you would like to reach. So yes, we are probably not what you currently consume, but the people who want to consume what you have are on our platforms, right? So that's one. Then for Chip, for influencers, there is nothing beats personal experience. And that's why you work with influencers. When someone comes and I tell you, like Philip right now will tell us about his fossil watch, and his experience is uniquely his. So there is that space for that. And you're sitting with an amazing influencer, Daniel, right there on your table, who will let you go into a mass market and they'll tell you how many people they've reached and give you amazing reports. But when Jerry, Nation Media, when RMS, and when Standard Media works with an influencer with a big reach like that, we come together and create specific niche content for you, and then we disseminate it from, yes, they will use it, you trust Daniel and you trust us. So there is there's space for all of us, and there's also space for collaboration. So yes, we can create, it is all about coming together and having this conversation. Because you might be sitting there, a B2B situation, and you're wondering, if I go to Nation, if I go to Standard, if I go to RMS, I don't want a radio ad, it's a bit expensive. But my budget is 100,000. What can you do with that for us? Then from there, it all begins with a conversation. Communication is the key for creating wealth. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Jerry.
For tracking advertisements, I'm sure she said that, but also there's something called Net Promoter Score. This one you go to like a geopoll, then they do it over time. It's impossible to know exactly what happens. But also sometimes this is increasingly happening, we integrated with social media. So you can use like promo codes and things like that. So you push it on radio, on TV, and then you tell people, we've shared something on our social. If you click on this or if you buy on this, this will happen. So on the back end, somebody can come and say, this promo code from, say, company X from Chepchikoni, actually Chepchikoni can say, this promo code was given to RMS, it has brought in 100,000 people. This one from Standard or Nation has also brought in X number of people. So there's usually that. It usually takes time because sometimes you have to use some of these companies that can do tracking for you, but it's offline, but it usually can take time. It depends on the kind of campaign you're running. If it's an awareness, sometimes that one takes time, but you can also even just go to the ground and ask people if they've heard about it. When you're doing your road shows, you can ask these questions from there. So most of the time, you can use the geopolls and the other people of this world, or you can just integrate it with your social media, and that one is a bit more direct.
Awesome.
Yeah, and also, this is 3 seconds for Chep. We also had to become influencers ourselves. Yeah. We have the reach. We literally have the numbers. So when somebody, maybe Moses can correct me on this, 14 million people are actively online, or maybe such a thing. How many, 13 million Kenyans are actively online, right? Oh, somebody mentioned like 13 to 14. Yeah, so when you look at, in this country, when you look at Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, you find something like Citizen TV, Citizen Digital platform is actually #1 across. So you may have your influencers and everything else, yes, but also we have the kind of reach that you're looking for. So right now we have a campaign we're running with Equity where we are actually curating content for them that is exclusively online. You'll not see it on TV. Even the kind of names could be something like Ngumimbwegze or something like that, Bizghetto. So when somebody online sees that kind of content, so we have the know-how, we know how to tell stories, we have the tools, we have the reach, we have the numbers that you're looking for. So we just try to come and tell you what's your budget. We also now had to become like Google and Facebook, also tell you, you can advertise with as low as 10,000. But at no point did we get to say, okay, we used to charge you 300 Gs, later 150 ya jioni, because ingine imeenda hapa ya macho. So that one did not change, and when even Equity comes to us, it still comes to us with a premium kind of pricing that we give them, but now we are telling them we also have all these platforms, all this kind of reach, and all these number of people who are directly will be impacted by whatever it is that you're pushing. Yes.
Wow. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for those wonderful questions. We're going to wrap up. So I'll just ask you to give a 1-second closing remark. Starting from Carol coming to me.
I think I've said quite a bit, but my parting shot is going forward. Maybe I look at the crystal ball. I think the opportunities are there. Especially because we have technology driving content. The challenge to us, ourselves as media and legacy media is, will the real storytellers please stand up? Because I think the next phase of content is going to be storytelling and engagement. How do we engage audiences, and how do we make the audiences feel? So that will be my parting shot.
Wow, thank you so much.
For me, it's innovate, innovate, innovate. Like she said, you're not watching the news, but the Atuoli clip got to you somehow, but it's still a message passed. So it's just trying to innovate, try to make sure that people like her who are saying they no longer consume news understand why, but also understand, is it because we are not where you are, or the kind of content we are giving, we need to change it, and also try to push it differently. So we are trying to understand that, use data as much as possible. Data is, right now there are people who've never been to journalism schools, but right now they are somewhere seated, somewhere telling a news editor who's been working for the last 30 years, your story yako haiwezi yaka page one, and they want to bust a nerve. Like this is happening in newsrooms where an editor looks and starts telling, I was here when before you were born. I'm like, yes, but I'm now here, and I'm telling you from the data, there is no need to run this story. And this old guy now has to listen to this young guy of 22 years and decide. So he's already someone here, you can go page 19, it's okay. And this is the one story that he always used to put as page 1. So using data and trying to make sure that we are where the audience is and we are telling the kind of stories, like she said, that the audience wants to see and also to consume, but also making sure that we remain, because at the core of it all, we are here to inform and entertain. We do not change on that. If it's an election year, we make sure that we are the ones fact-checking, so that you guys actually come to us to make sure this thing is going around is true. So when we just make sure that at the end of the day, as a journalist, what am I here to do? What's my core role? If I stick to that, the rest will just follow on its own.
Wow, thank you, Philip.
A lot has been said, so mine will just be the phrase, the king is dead. The king is dead.
Long live the king.
Long live the king. So thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, wonderful panelists. Thank you, Carol, for your time. Philip and Jerry, representing Nation Media Group, RMS, and the Standard Group PLC. Thank you so much, our wonderful audience. You guys were so amazing. So I'd like for all of us to clap for ourselves. Well done. And thank you so much for this time. Thank you so much, Social Media Week, for great organizing. Our key takeaway, innovate, data. I'm so excited to hear we are data-driven. And finally, we can appreciate data. That's what we do every day at Breakthrough Consulting. We are a data-driven business, and we help organizations to drive data, because data tells us everything. And I'm also excited to see that you're wearing a Fossil watch, so the future is bright. Asanteni sana. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Wow. I didn't fall. Philip? Oh, okay. Yeah, there was water for you to drink.